I'm Andrew Patterson from interest.co.nz and welcome to another in our business update series. I'm joined today by Geoff Olliff, the co-founder and chief executive of ViFX. Geoff, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So Geoff, just tell us a little bit about the business and how it got started.
Sure. Business was started in 2007. An opportunity was found by my business partner to form a specialist boutique consultancy around some very advanced technology known as virtualization. We started the business with three principles in mind: being the best at what we do, hiring fantastic people, and choosing a very tightly controlled set of customers, being the sort of customers that have the kind of problems that we could solve.
Geoff, what exactly is cloud computing?
At a straightforward level, and cloud computing are not always compatible. Cloud computing is a way of doing computing, which means that the computing can be provisioned on demand, self-service, in a way that's easily cost transparent. So people can get the resources they want when they want them, and know exactly how much those resources are going to cost. When they're finished using those resources, they can be let go again. So there's no ongoing cost burden. Cloud computing is often referred to around infrastructure. That's kind of servers and storage, that sort of stuff. Application development platforms known as platform as a service, and of course software as a service. And we have some great examples here in New Zealand: Xero, Gmail, a whole bunch of things available as a service. Cloud computing is a loose term that's come to mean all of those things. It means something different for a small business that might just need an accounting system and a mail package than it does to an organisation like Fonterra. But the benefits accrue to both organisations, both ends of the scale.
What are the benefits that particularly flow from cloud computing?
There are a couple of benefits to cloud that I think are important, and these are going to become more important as more people adopt that way of doing computing. The first is an economy of scale. By pooling everybody's demand and supplying it out of a kind of central source, a bit like the electricity grid, cloud computing will provide a lower cost. But I think the greater benefit is around the agility that it brings. So with cloud computing, compute resource, whether it's application or a server, can be available on demand when it's needed. More of it can be requested if more is needed. And then of course it can all be let go again when it's no longer needed. And there are some wonderful case studies at the moment of organisations, especially young emerging organisations, who don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money on IT, who can then grow quite quickly using a cloud-based platform. And it gives them a whole ability to focus on their business rather than on IT in their business.
Where does New Zealand sit if you benchmark New Zealand against other countries around the world and those top 100 companies that you're focused on? Where are they in terms of their adaptiveness to this area?
Sure. It's a journey. And it's a journey of adoption and a journey of change. And the New Zealand organisations that we deal with are typically well advanced. I think the reason for that is that New Zealand problems are sophisticated, but their scale is manageable. Whereas we look at organisations in Asia, the scale is mind-blowing. So New Zealand organisations, firstly, are able to adapt and change because they're relatively small, and also they're forced to adapt and change because we have an open economy, we have a lot of pressure from a range of economic factors, and so both those things work to make New Zealand businesses reasonably advanced on this journey.
The type of proposition that you're getting from the likes of Fonterra and Fletcher building companies that you've worked with, what are they coming to you and essentially getting you to do?
When we first started, we chose to become specialist in a technology called virtualization. Virtualization became a foundation technology for cloud computing. And what we've seen emerge is a journey or a path of transformation from virtualization through to what we think in the future will be cloud computing used by everybody. Much the same way as we no longer have generators for electricity inside our own companies, that's done centrally. Cloud computing offers the same kind of principle for IT. The challenge for large organisations is how they make that transition. And so we are able to plan out changes within large organisations from using virtualization to make their own infrastructures more efficient, all the way through to how they deliver their computing outcomes to their users in the future.
When we think about the developments in this space, they're happening so fast, and cloud computing in 2007 was barely considered. Why are we seeing this rapid shift in thinking in this particular space right now?
That's a great question, and we still scratch our heads and kind of think, how did this happen? A number of technologies merged. Virtualization, the ability to separate a computing job from the resources it's running on, that happened at around that time, and that's all we were talking about 5 years ago. The internet has obviously enabled communications between different parts of an organisation or different organisations. So those two technologies have merged. But I think the thing that's driving it is the sheer value and the sheer economic benefit of a model of computing like cloud computing. It drives not only substantial cost savings, but also substantial agility. Those are the two main things. Tacked on for good measure are increased resilience, better redundancy, quicker disaster recovery. So there's really a whole lot of goodness that's come out of these technologies. And like anything, people are struggling for competitive advantage, so the uptake of the technologies and the development of them is extremely rapid.
What's also interesting is actually how inefficient the system is at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, there are great examples. There were some studies done by our own Ministry of Defence back in 2007, 2008. Of their 900 servers in their fleet, the average utilisation was 2.3%. Which means that greater than 90% of the money, of the labour, of the power, of all of those resources was wasted. And the first real wave for cloud computing was virtualization, which enabled all of that excess capacity to be used. So that's what's kind of kicked this whole thing off.
As far as competition goes within the space that you operate in, what are the particular skill sets that you bring to the table?
Those are questions that I go to sleep with every night. When we started, we were able to differentiate ourselves on the basis of specialist skills. Over the years, more people have gained the skills, both inside our customers and inside our competitors. We retain our competitive differentiation by our singular focus on this area. So while other organisations will offer skills in this area, they offer them in a general menu of skills. Whereas for an organisation like us, we're much more like brain surgeons than general practitioners. So from here, the technology's changed reasonably dramatically over the last 5 years. Both the amount of the technology that's used inside a large organisation, but also the technology itself. Many versions later, more sophistication in the tool sets have enabled customers to begin to think about how they change themselves. So in order to take the most advantage out of cloud computing, as it turns out to be, and we don't know what that looks like yet, we're still 2 or 3 years away. In order for customers to take advantage of it, then they need to start thinking about how they do computing. And we're now in a space, in a pretty unique space, of guiding customers through those transitions. And we now start to think about organisational change, what the business has to look like in order to take advantage of the benefits of cloud computing.
Now you're doing quite a bit globally in terms of your consultancy as well. You're doing work in China, so clearly this is a market with huge potential.
It's a worldwide transformation. IT has become a critical part of global commerce. And being a New Zealand organisation, we've got some advantages around our flexibility. We've got broad skills, and the problems in New Zealand are sophisticated. They're just small in scale. So our people get a chance to see a very wide range of the issues. We have interests in a business in Singapore, and we have strong interests in a business in Australia, and we've had success in both those markets.
Obviously, you are in a competitive space as far as staff go. How do you deal with that particular issue when you've got staff that are being sought with these skills around the world?
We know that everybody that works here is a volunteer. They could work anywhere in the industry. They could probably work anywhere around the world. They choose to work here because of our degree of specialisation. They are practitioners at the top end of their own game. So they want to go somewhere which is going to recognise that and challenge it. We've built a culture of excellence. We have a team of people who are almost rocket scientists in terms of their expertise, and we're able to deploy that expertise to solve really challenging and interesting problems at quite a large scale. So that in itself becomes an attractive place to be.
How do you maintain that culture of a solutions-driven approach? Is that something that comes naturally? We talk about this it's a skill within kind of in the New Zealand DNA, but is that something that you find just continually comes through in the staff that you're getting, or is it something you have to instill in them?
No, it's actually quite difficult. When you're growing a business quickly, the amount of cultural change inside the business grows quickly as well. And the issues that we had when we were 6 or 7 or 8 people are quite different now that here in Auckland we're kind of 25 people. Also, the nature of the technology changes, which means that what constitutes a solution today is different than what it was 2 or 3 years ago. So we're having to constantly rethink how we view a solution and how we take that solution and articulate it to a client or to a prospect.
So this is really a never-ending piece of string, isn't it?
Thank you, that's so encouraging. Yes, it is. It's a constant challenge. And it's not what keeps you awake at night that's important, it's what gets you up in the morning that's important. And this certainly gets you up in the morning.
And while you're dealing with the top end of the market, if you're just thinking about those in that SME space, which obviously you're not dealing with, but what are the issues that you think they should be considering and thinking about in terms of this technology? Because ultimately they're going to be caught up in it too.
You're absolutely right. Everyone will be affected by this. I think we've got to stop thinking about computing as computing and think about computing or IT as a way of achieving a business outcome. Whether that's invoicing or inventory control or email, this is what we use computers for. And the cloud gives us the ability to focus on the outcome, not on the way the outcome's achieved. And so I would strongly encourage businesses and people within business at all levels to think about the outcome and stop worrying about how to achieve the outcome. And I think there's some great examples right here in New Zealand of Xero, the accounting system, cloud-based accounting. Google Mail and other cloud-based mail systems. Business process after business process is becoming kind of cloud-enabled. And so I think it's always worthwhile to come back and say, what are we in business for? What's the easiest way of doing that? And then look for the savings and benefits, not only in cost, but in agility.
Obviously, this is a business that's growing rapidly, and you are dealing with a fairly rapid change. Where could the potential be for the business in the future?
It's really exciting, and there's still enough geek left in me to be excited by what this is doing. The analogy that I like to use is electricity. It was originally invented around lighting and manufacturing and those kind of principles. But of course, what happened once the invention was made was hair dryers and microwaves and televisions and a whole lot of unforeseen things. Cloud is very similar. With the ability to have computing at our fingertips in power, we're already seeing the iPads and the applications on the iPad and similar tablet devices. That's changing the way we are as a society. At a business level, we're seeing the ability to do far more and to react far more quickly to opportunities in the market. So from a business sense, I'm excited by New Zealand's prospects to take its place on a kind of world stage without being limited by scale. So we have a great future in this.
And from your point of view, there's really no shortage of demand for your services. It's more a matter of managing that opportunity in the future.
Yeah, creating change is always difficult. And so making sure that change is well thought through, well articulated, and therefore digestible by our customers is probably our biggest challenge. Everyone knows they have a problem, but defining that problem in a way that they can digest is quite hard.
Well, Geoff, thanks very much for joining us today. A business that is very much in the technology space and one that is growing rapidly. And I suppose from your point of view, the only issue is presumably being able to continue to recruit enough staff.
That's one of them, and thank you very much for your time.